Hello, I'm Michael Brown, President of the School for Advanced Research in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this talk entitled Deepfakes, Commodification, Consequences, and Countermeasures by Dr. Giorgio Patrini. This is SAR's third online lecture for our Creative Thought Forum series for spring 2021. This year, our focus is on fact and fraud in the digital age, a timely subject for obvious reasons. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to thank those who've made the Creative Thought Forum series possible for this year. These include the Paloheimo Foundation, the Luke J. and Betty Vortman Endowment Fund, the Flora Crichton Lecture Fund, Thornburg Investment Management, Mark Sublette and Medicine Man Gallery, Adobo Catering, and members of SAR's Founders Society. Our underwriters for this talk are Dan Marians of UBS Financial Services and First National 1870 Bank. I'd also like to thank our members and those who've made voluntary donations to support today's program. It's through your generous support that we're able to offer these online programs free of charge and to make them accessible to a national and international audience. If you're not already a member, we'd like to invite you to join SAR. We've recently launched a virtual membership for just $25 for new members who can only access SAR resources remotely because you live somewhere like Europe. You can visit our website at sarweb.org for more information on the digital membership. Following the presentation today at 11:30 Mountain Time, we'll be offering the opportunity for current members to join with Dr. Patrini in an in-depth conversation over Zoom to discuss the topic he'll be covering today. If you're interested in joining us for that, we'll put in the chat line the email address of Amy Schiffer, who's our membership coordinator. You can contact her and ask to join. Dr. Giorgio Patrini is CEO and founder of Sensity, which develops technologies for detecting and monitoring online visual threats, such as deepfake videos. His team's work has been covered by CNN, BBC, The Washington Post, The Guardian, Financial Times, Bloomberg, Wired, BuzzFeed, Fortune Magazine, Al Jazeera, among others. He completed his doctorate at the Australian National University. Today he's joining us from Amsterdam, where he's based. A quick comment about format. Dr. Patrini's talk, which we recorded several days ago to allow for editing and the best possible video presentation, lasts approximately 40 minutes. He'll join us live for about 20 minutes for questions, which you can forward by using the Q&A function in Zoom. Again, I give you Giorgio Patrini.
Hi, everybody, and thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Giorgio, and today we're going to be talking about the state of deepfakes. But briefly, before we start there, let me give you a little bit of introduction on who I am, so you know who's talking to you today. So my name is Giorgio Patrini, and my background is mainly coming from academia. So I have a PhD in machine learning from the Australian National University. And in the last few years, prior to my experience in Sensity that I'm going to tell you about today, I've been doing research in machine learning, deep learning, and generative models in between of the Australian government and the University of Amsterdam more recently. But really, my last experience that motivated me to look into this new area with the topic of deepfakes has been a startup that I founded in 2018 that was really driven from a question, and perhaps even philosophical. So now that we have the technology and the AI is giving this power to us to produce highly realistic and synthetic video and audio, what's going to happen to each of us in the way that we perceive reality, or what we can trust to see on the internet and any other digital recording, and perhaps what can and will bad people do to us and to society. So with this in mind, from the point of view of a researcher at the beginning, I started to worry and then I wonder, what can technology provide as a solution to this problem that perhaps technology is bringing up to society? So what can we do about the deepfakes? But first of all, what are even deepfakes if you haven't encountered this before? So let's start with this journey with this talk today on giving you some example of what we mean with deepfakes. I will try to stay away from technical jargon or even definition. I'm just gonna show you by example what people can do and who can do that as well. So I will start with a little test. Although I'm not live, I would actually encourage you to think a little bit of what I'm telling you and taking some time to respond to this one. So which of these two ladies in the photo is a real person? So imagine that you're talking to one of them on social media. Would you believe that one of them, or which one of them, is actually a synthetic face generated by an algorithm? So maybe a little bit too hard if that is so little resolution to look at. What about now? If you take some time, whom between these two people would you say it is AI generated? Well, somebody actually made a game out of it that you can actually try yourself at whichfaceisreal.com. And they provide a statistic on how people, well, first of all, the answer to this question. So perhaps, don't know if you caught it, this one. The lady on the left is actually synthetic. It's not a real person. It was synthesized by an algorithm. But then, as I was saying, this game also provided statistics on how people were playing the game, on how, or perhaps trying to answer the question, how bad are humans to play in this game? So out of 6 million people that played this on their mobile phone, researchers measured that just about, we were doing in average just about 8% than random guessing, which means that provided these two photos, you would just toss a coin and there would be a random guess, right? So I guess that's to say already today, and by the way, this is technology that was already available 2 or 3 years ago. Already today, humans are not that good at understanding when a human face, is a synthetic or not. But let's move on videos. I think it's even more challenging there. The next one is really an art creation that, by some artists in London, I think about 1.5 years ago now. And I'm going to show you what it does first. So this is, of course, the Prime Minister of the UK talking.
Hi folks, I am here with a very special message. Since that momentous day in 2016, division has coursed through our country as we argue with fantastic passion, vim and vigour about Brexit. My friends, I wish to rise above this divide and endorse my worthy opponent, the Right Honourable Jeremy Corbyn, to be Prime Minister. Only he, not I, can make Britain great again. Huzzah! Alas, why should you believe me? Much like Odysseus and his encounter with the Cyclops Polyphemus, I too am nobody. I am a fake bear. A deep fake to be precise. And as you can see, even I, the Prime Minister, can be affected by them. Yes, the unregulated power of technologies like this risk fueling misinformation, eroding trust, and compromising democracy. Yes, to help us rugby tackle deepfakes, not children, at futureadvocacy.org/deepfakes. Castigat, ridendo, mores.
Okay, I will stop it here. I think you get the idea. It's pretty hard to understand that this is a fake video. I'm telling you just that. If you don't remember his voice, also it's probably even harder, but it was actually impersonated by somebody as the speech. And then an AI algorithm took care to synchronize the audio with the lip movement of the Prime Minister to make it look, not just sound, realistic as a non-generated, not synthetic. So this is an occasion, it is an instance of a creation or an algorithm that is called lip syncing. So you put the words, like spurious speech, or the word of somebody else in the mouth of a puppet on a video that was actually real, except that the mouth region was regenerated. Then if you move ahead, I'm going to show you something that is much more recent. I think this was released, this is a video of Tom Cruise that was released just about, I think a couple of weeks ago. That was very much received and published on social media and also mainstream media, really.
What's up, TikTok? You guys cool if I play some sports? I love it. More for the audio experience. As much as the momentum. Hey, listen up, sports and TikTok fans. If you like what you're seeing, just wait till what's coming next.
And I'm going to stop it here as well. I invite you to have a look at this channel on TikTok. I think it's called Deep Tom Cruise. There are many of these examples, and this would be really the state of the art of what you would consider a deepfake in 2021. So technically, something different happened here. This is an instance of face swap. So they hired an actor, an impersonator of, a professional impersonator of Tom Cruise, while the algorithm itself was taking care of changing the facial region, the old facial region, to match with the face that everybody would know from Tom Cruise. And an algorithm knows how to swap frame by frame the faces of either the impersonator and into the actor. This is very difficult to catch visually just looking at it. I'm showing you here actually that it's true what I'm saying. So there was an actor behind it, because we can actually see frame by frame the comparison given by the creator of the algorithm himself that showed on YouTube the type of technology, the type of skills that he applied, and also the effort to make this so realistically looking. Then we can move ahead and look into audio. So audio itself is now, can be created, can be synthesized to sound like the speech of real people. And this is what researchers and technical people would call voice cloning, or perhaps text-to-speech. Text-to-speech is when, like in this example I'm showing to you, I wrote a little bit of a little script for President Bush to say those words. This is a text-to-speech. Voice cloning would be, I would ask an algorithm to take my voice and replicate word by word, sentence by sentence, with the same type of intonation, but with the word, with the pitch of President Bush. So I'm gonna play this one that I generated really just using a website that is freely available online.
Hi there, this is President Bush. No, just kidding. This is a voice clone made in literally 10 seconds on the web. Can you believe that? Imagine using this technology on a phone call while pretending to be someone else. This is shocking.
Okay, this may sound disappointing, perhaps. I think you may recognize his voice. It sounds a little bit robotic, and probably the pauses and the spaces between words are not that good. But again, there is no human interaction here. Just an algorithm created this in a few seconds, just on a prompt. So I think it is still quite impressive and extremely accessible, as I'm also going to tell you a little bit later on. So this first part, I just want to show you the level of realism that we have achieved with this type of technology and deepfakes very recently. But a second very important factor to consider here is the effect of commodification. What I mean with that, if you look at perhaps more historical instances of media manipulation, of image manipulation, like the Forrest Gump meeting Kennedy type of thing in the movie. Well, you may wonder, but we have seen this before. Why are you telling us this is something not new? Perhaps the technology is different, but who cares? I actually argue that there is much difference here for many reasons. So first of all, this type of examples that I showed to you weren't created by very well-funded Hollywood studio with extremely expensive technology in months of a skilled engineer to work on it. They were most of the time created by amateurs with open source software for very, very, very low budget. So commodification, that's what I'm talking about. Easy to access, easy to master, inexpensive, and also scalable, because now most of the work is done by a machine, by an algorithm, is not perfected frame by frame or second by second in audio by somebody skilled in that craft. There is a bit of that perhaps, but most of the work is actually done by machines. And most of it is actually coming out of a very important revolution in the field of AI in the last really, let's say from 2014, so less than 10 years. Deep learning is behind some of these very important revolution on the fact that we can train algorithms to learn to how to do those tasks, for example, generating a human face. But we train them literally asking them, look at those millions photos of people. Those are humans. This is a face. Create new ones, as I'm telling you. And the algorithm will figure it out. Will figure out by itself. So it's really the power of machine learning. There is no concept of I need to create a graphical model of a face. So the person has the two eyes, has a nose, has a mouth, all in those positions. Then there are hairs, that particular texture. No. All the machine is going to figure it out by itself. So really, we are delegating the power and perhaps also part of the creativity of this job to algorithms, and that's what it makes it so powerful and so scalable, and also controllable. So in this slide, you see the same model with very little tweaks on how it works can generate, if you wish, the same person, changing gender, changing age, and perhaps changing ethnicity and skin color, still keeping fixed all the rest of their characteristics. So you see they're also very easy to control and to master, with very little computational power to put on top of. When you have got one of these models, you can actually use it for and repurpose it in many different ways. And again, it's about accessibility. But that's more from the point of view of the technical aspect of, if you want, really the core technology itself. But there are also user experience factors that we need to consider in terms of accessibility. So I don't want to give you the impression that this is this type of technology, and therefore the potentially created deepfakes is mastered only by PhD researchers at Google or in some important university that are leading this field. This is actually accessible to a variety of people around the world, down to somebody that just know how to program a little bit of scripting in Python. So perhaps a second-year computer science student, or somebody that just does it as a job, as a developer. Because most of these, the source code of this technology for creating deepfakes, and in particular face swap, let's say, they are freely available, open source, with a graphical interface, with a tutorial and webinar to help people to get started, with community supporting new developers, and also with the help of paid services to teach you or to give you and open new resources where you can actually build them more and more proficiently some of these tools. There is actually a whole, it's still a niche, of course, but there is a whole new economy that we find that is monetizing around this type of technology. So we started to call this economy deepfake as a service, or marketplaces for deepfakes, where you will see people opening their own tools to create, for example, voice cloning for some particular that targets some particular individuals, like actresses and singers and politicians in the US. Perhaps there are marketplaces where you would hire somebody to make you a specific video, given some characteristic that you want in that video, and they would charge you by how many minutes is the video long, and so forth. You will see some places where you have a really fully automated services, where you just send the video, you tell them what's going to happen, and you will have a machine doing essentially all the job. And you will also see sometimes people hiring deepfake manager or whatever else. So people that actually understand all the complexity of the many different stages of creation, and can help perhaps a company streamline some of these operations. And then more recently, and this is, I think, really in the last 12 months or so, we have seen really an explosion of consumer apps embedding some of this capability, usually very limited, very vertical, very specific, into consumer apps that you can download on your phone. So I'm playing some examples here. What you're able to do would be then moving a face from an old photo in a very realistic manner, or you will be able to put a photo on and having that person, and perhaps a famous person, perhaps a friend of yours, singing a song. So there is also the audio synchronization component there, or perhaps also in the last example, having a face swap that would look fairly realistic on top of a GIF, or perhaps a clip from a movie, and so on. So those are, in a way, all the realm of memes and fun and entertainment. So very limited in the thing that I can do, but still very powerful from the point of view of the technology that is behind them. And as a recap, if you look at this area from the point of view of commodification, what are, we gather often in our activity the numbers to really try to understand how easy and how expensive it is to create some of these. So if you are really a do-your-own developer, so you download the source code, you play with it, you will need to have a GPU at home, so a graphical processor for gaming, or perhaps you use cloud computer. So it's still quite cheap to create some of these videos if you know what you're doing from a technical point of view. And again, the source code itself is completely free and accessible and easy to use if you have a little bit of experience in programming. Or you can refer to more professional creator. Some, let's say, legit businesses and startups and companies. Some more shady. We also see people doing that more with a criminal mind, perhaps, or an illicit type of point of view on some marketplaces, also in the dark web. That would charge you up to $10,000 for a very well-crafted work after a few weeks working on it. Or you can try it actually yourself. If you are not interested in the top two category, you can actually just download some of this up and see what I can do. But again, this is a very limited type of things that you may be able to achieve. And in a way, again, it's more about entertainment. It's not really about any freedom of creation that could also have the side of potentially criminal activity whatsoever. I'm telling you this because I haven't mentioned very much what we do with my company, but now that's maybe a good introduction. So with Sensity, my team, we are essentially a small team of engineers that understand computer vision, image forensics, open source intelligence, and these kind of disciplines too. And we build a product, security product. We are a cybersecurity company. We build cybersecurity product for companies to protect their brand, or also the image of a specific person of interest that may be connected with this company, for example, with talent agencies, reputation managers, and so forth. So from our point of view is building technology that can protect against deepfakes when they are misused. So for us, it's very important to collect intelligence on how difficult they are to be made and who is making those. And for what purpose. So next step, I'm going to tell you a little bit more of essentially what we know about this whole area with the study that we have been doing in the last 3 years or so under the name of threat intelligence. So we want to study who are the adversaries, why they're doing what they're doing, and what could be the threat for people and organizations around the world. So it's a lot about data collection as well. So I'm going to tell you much more in terms of number right now. So first of all, is this really a problem worth looking? How big is this issue if you look in terms of really the scale of it? So we've been collecting data since, I would say, December 18, really systematically. And what we have been looking at is the number of videos that are online that we may certify are deepfakes. So just considering video per se, and also we don't really look very much into the creation of consumer apps that are more like a game from our perspective, and not really a security threat for people or from our clients. Those numbers in terms of deepfakes video that are potentially maliciously created has doubled every 6 months roughly since we started collecting it, up to the last statistic that we have in December last year, around 85,000 synthetic videos we were able to label as such over the internet. So it's really quite an astonishing number if you think that people could put your face there in those videos without your consent and having you do anything they want to some extent. So there is a malicious aspect as potential. What are these videos about, or let's say who are where are they coming from? Who is targeted? So we are able most of the time, if they are about public figures or persons known by the public, we are able to identify these people, and we actually have tracked down more than 3,000 of them around the world. Most of them, roughly half of them, would be people in the entertainment industry in the US, or politician or business executive and so forth. Followed by the UK, but also actually in Asia there is a lot of activity driven by cultural trend like Bollywood for India, K-pop for South Korea, and so forth. What is in these videos really? So I wanna gloss over this one. Actually, this is an important aspect that very often gets not very much talked about. Most of the time we will talk about deepfakes in terms of threat for democracy. There is definitely that, but if you look at the numbers themselves, the comparison with adult pornography, demeaning type of material that we find in deepfakes versus everything else is really it's really quite astonishing. So most around 96% of the deepfakes that are today online somewhere are actually related to pornographic material made non-consensually, sometimes also with an idea of harassing and public shaming. Most of the targets come from entertainment, fashion industry, but also politics and business people are often affected by those. So that's really the big problem of deepfakes if we are talking about the larger scale, if we measure in terms of numbers. This also let me connect with some stories, some actually report and investigation that we conducted we released it in October last year, but it's been an investigation we started about this time 1 year ago. We found out some large communities on Telegram, the messaging app, using deepfake technology to automatically really embedded into a bot, so completely automated, to let users upload their photo, in particular photo of women, and having this bot nudify them in a photorealistic manner somehow, to the extent that we were able to track down archives that showed evidence that more than 100,000 people around the world were actually targeted by this technology without their knowledge. So to what we know, this was a sort of a business, but at the same time was also created with a free version that actually let it grow so much and be spread over many different places on Telegram, until we also found some particularly dark details on this, in the sense that part of this archive was also related to child pornography, unfortunately. So this is really like the dark side of deepfakes that has been used also for criminal activities, and potentially we don't have trace for that, but we also suspect that some of this imagery has been used for extortion or coercion against the women from which the picture were taken. So we have reported this to law enforcement, and we have worked with them to take down some of this community just before we released this report in October to the media. But connecting to other use case, again, our point of view as a security company is really looking for what bad people or bad actors are doing maliciously with this kind of technology. We can move ahead and look into cases of disinformation and as well as foreign espionage, where people have used some of these fake faces to hide their identity or pretend to be somebody that doesn't exist, to either spread misinformation or to get in touch with government officials and try to gather confidential information out of them. Some of these are very often also these days organized in bots and the disinformation campaign that are semi-automated. So a lot of these faces are used these days on bot accounts because they are very easy to generate algorithmically. So in milliseconds, you would just create some of these faces that look realistic to anybody that have never seen them, and therefore are can be plausible as somebody talking about a topic, a sensitive topic on social media, although you don't know there is nobody human behind them. So that's a little bit of what is happening in terms of use of fake faces on social media. It's a growing problem, and we also see on dating websites actually people having their first approach with some of those fake faces and some other fake pictures, and then perhaps run a scam and a fraud against other users of dating websites. This really brings me to what I think everybody would associate these days, I think still wrongly, with the biggest problem of deepfakes. I think everybody would have immediately the intuition that a face swap or a lip syncing would be used maliciously by perhaps a foreign actor to spread this information. Well, the fact is, it's still quite a difficult, and it is not completely for free to build those campaigns around just one video, and they may be easily debunked. But so we haven't seen very much an effect of fake videos in this information campaign, fake videos of this sort where the face has been compromised, the face area has been manipulated. But what you've seen very often actually is kind of the opposite effect of deepfakes, which is the one of the plausible deniability. So we are very often contacted by media and reported from the media asking the question, is this video a deepfake? Because a lot of people believe it is, and they are discrediting it. So the problem is upside down, because perhaps and very often those videos are not compromised at all from the point of view of changing the face or the speech of the person, or the politician in these cases. But there is a common narrative by somebody in the media, maliciously or not, perhaps just for ignorance, in saying that those videos could not be real and therefore they must be deepfakes. So this is the effect of plausible deniability that is very present, and it's happening even in the US. I think somebody recently, we were interviewed by Reuters on this, on the concession speech by Donald Trump. Somebody said, this cannot be true, it doesn't sound like him, it must be a deepfake. So that's the kind of the other side of the issue, when you know that now deepfake technology is a commodity and many people may use it maliciously. Now you also question when you question, and perhaps people would discredit videos that are actually real or legit. And last bit of misuses or use cases that we see. This is from public news really. We've seen also identity theft and financial fraud being built on top of the use of deepfakes, either by voice cloning. So you would pretend to be somebody like a CEO of a company or the CFO of a company, authorizing a financial transaction, and therefore telling to some of your employee to wire the money, but that will go through perhaps to the bank account of a hacker. Or we also seen that happening on video, connected to really the issue that I mentioned before, the case of a dating website. So, already several people has been scammed over romance, fake romance using deepfakes. So that's also a concern that is happening, that is growing more and more. So I think I've depressed you enough with this, but that's really to give you an idea that in order to fix the problem, you need to know the problem. You need to know why what motivates people to do bad things with this type of technology that now is in the hands of so many. But let's talk about a little bit of what we do, or perhaps to talk more generally about the countermeasures. So first question as a technologist that really make me and my partner starting this company is, can technology provide an answer to this? Well, if AI is able to create this type of media, can AI also help us as analysts or as builder of technology to detect when the AI itself has created this media. So can we turn AI against itself? Can we train those, can we use deep learning to detect when something is wrong in a video? Perhaps something happened to the face of that politician, he has been face swapped. So it turns out that this is possible to some extent. So I'm just going to show you a video to give you some concreteness to what I'm talking about. This is, I think, a video produced perhaps more than a year ago by one YouTuber that has some of the best quality deepfake online over Back to the Future. So the two main actors has been swapped, and you can train. You can use AI to understand if those faces has been swapped, for example. So how does it work? From the very high level, you have essentially three ideas that you can use in order to do that. First of all, you will know that generation, so synthesis of deepfakes is never perfect. They will leave us some artifacts. So for example, the light is not very natural on the face. Perhaps the way that the face is merged with the rest of the body has left some traces there. So you can actually train an algorithm to look for those type of artifacts and therefore tell you if something is amiss in the video. Or you could have a more holistic approach, really coming from image forensics. The idea it would be to, well, we know that there is some statistics in terms of the noise that a real camera would generate. So therefore, if that camera was responsible to have recorded this whole video, we will see kind of a uniform pattern of this noise that comes from how the lenses are made, the algorithms for compression the camera use, and a lot of other technical things. But if there is somebody that took that video at some point and changed the face of that person, well, those patterns actually would look very different in the face region, and therefore by difference you can judge something is wrong here. So you can use these on images and video as well, in order to highlight what areas you should be more worried about, or perhaps you should be more suspicious about if you're doing an analysis. So then the third option that is very different, people call it soft biometrics. In a way, very, very high level. The idea is, if I know whose this video is about, perhaps is from Barack Obama. I know so many videos of him. I've studied with some algorithm how this person opened their mouth and opened their eyes and moved their head synchronously or not synchronously. So you would have a lot of features that tell you how Obama would behave when he's talking. Then you can train an algorithm to actually tell you, well, this person doesn't look like Obama because he's moving and talking in such a different way. And perhaps his mannerisms are so different from what we have seen in hundreds of videos. And therefore, that's a red flag. So that's roughly the idea of soft biometrics. So usually current solution like ours on my team, we use a mix of all of these ideas to analyze videos. But I also argue that this is not enough, because what we have covered here is just when somebody sends us a video, we analyze it, we have a look at how the two respond, and then we can have an informed forensic judgment. But in order to actually really have an impact on how we can be part of the solution of this problem, we realized very, very early on in our journey that detection is really just one of the components here. First pillar of our approach is, in a way, what I've already shown you and in the first part of the presentation, which is we really need to know who are our adversaries, what is the technology that they are using, how easy it is to make those videos, what is the freedom, technically speaking, of the things that can make happen in those videos, and therefore we should focus on those. What is the intent, where this technology is distributed, how, who is buying and selling these services, and so forth. And so we have built actually a lot of technology with my team in order to be able to analyze much of this data from these communities all around the world. For example, as you've seen in the case of Telegram, when we did an investigation there, we want to be able to have a fresh look of anything that bad actors are doing with deepfakes worldwide. as soon as possible, as soon as something new is generated. And therefore, perhaps we have the chance to stop, maybe signal to YouTube or another social media when we actually see something amiss that is happening. So we are doing step by step. We're not there yet, but that's the concept of having implemented threat intelligence automatically. That is powered by deepfake detection. But at the same, but then as the end of the loop, or if you want, from the point of view of the user, as I mentioned, we work with people that would do reputation management for talents, or law firms that would work for public figures and so forth. So we also want to be able to have our own way to help the final user, the final clients that has been attacked by some of this content being online without their knowledge, without their consent. We want to be able to take it down and go on with legal action. So that's also why threat intelligence is so important, to know where, for example, a file was uploaded on the web in the first place, if we are privy to that information. So if you are curious, you can actually have a look at our website. A lot of this information, of course, not all open, since a lot of it is actually related to criminal activity, or let's say illicit activity, unethical at the very least. Some of it is actually browsable. You can have a look at least at the extent of the attack that we are recording and we are labeling every day. So you can have a look and, for example, browse by the name of the people that we may follow, because they are public figures, and therefore some of that information we make it public as well. I want to close this also making another point on what I think, though, is very important as a part of the solution for this problem. So we are technician, we are technology builder, we are researcher, we build technology and we build product to hope to be part of the solution. But I think very important is that also everybody of us, each and everybody of us, is aware of the problem, and therefore education and awareness event like this one, and I'm grateful to be here for this. It's important that they keep they exist, and they teach, and they make people aware of the problem, because without knowing that the problem exists, you are essentially completely out of any protection. If somebody is talking to you with a fake face, you may not even know that an algorithm to create that fake exists. You will never even doubt it, and therefore you are more exposed to this kind of attack. Or the same is for judging suspiciously a video that perhaps is very sensational, but if you now know that some of this video may be produced with AI, you may think twice before retweeting or sharing it on social media, or sending it to your friends and family. So I think it's very important to understand what technology can do today in order to fix the problem, also from the point of view of the user. So one such activity that we did in the area of awareness was around the time of the US presidential election, just a few months back, and we collaborated with Microsoft and the University of Washington to build a small tool that is still online and you can play with. It's sort of a quiz that is going to teach you by a game. Like, remember that at the very beginning I've asked you which of these two ladies is real, or which one is synthesized. You will see a lot of more this example that are going to teach you a few tricks, perhaps to recognize them, and make you more aware of what you may encounter, unfortunately, in the internet today. So I would suggest to take a look. It's also a fun game. So I will close here. For the people that are most interested into some of our analysis, some of our data, some of our insights. Most of the things that I told you, we wrap up in reports every now and then. We have a couple that are freely available on our website, so you can just put your email and then we send the PDF to you. If you want to have more information about our investigation and our activities. Thank you very much. I look forward to take questions and have some good discussion about this topic.
Wow, Giorgio. Interesting topic and sobering. Thank you so much for bringing bringing these issues to our attention. So I have a question, and I'll blend it with one that came in from the audience. Do you see any process moving towards some sort of certification, some non-falsifiable certification process that could establish that videos are legitimate rather than fake?
Yes, indeed. There is some. We are at the very beginning, but there is some of such initiatives, also internationally supported, that aim to authenticate a video by a chain of trust from creation, from editing, from publishing. So in a way, it is an approach that is completely opposite from what we do. So we work post-hoc when something is already out there, we try to track it down and to remove it. So that activity is indeed very complementary to kind of our approach. Some of this is happening funded by organizations like the New York Times, Twitter, and Adobe. I think in an organization that is called Content Authenticity Initiative. You can look it up. I think the consortium that I founded is at the very beginning on creating a standard based on cryptographic signature and perhaps also blockchain to help creators and producer media to essentially tell to anybody that is consuming their media or working on it, editing it, that the media until that point is authentic and you should trust it if you trust the source. So in a way, that's something that I think we will see in the future as an approach. The problem I see there, though, is it requires a lot of effort in terms of collaboration between different institution, producer, and consumer of media. So I think, unfortunately, until we see that in action and its effectiveness, it will take a long time to really coordinate and orchestrate people that will build the technology and then perhaps also social media, newspapers, and whatnot to use it effectively at scale over the internet. So I think that's a direction that we'll see in the future, but it will take some time.
So questions are coming in. There's one from Ida. It says, can you give some examples about how deepfakes have been evidence in legal cases and how courts have responded to them, or has that not happened yet to your knowledge?
It has happened. We've also been involved in a few cases working with expert witnesses around Europe. They are still very isolated cases, I would say, and perhaps surprisingly, the type of misuses are not really for the falsification of evidence, but is more about questioning the authenticity of perhaps real evidence. So what I mean is deepfakes, if you think about it, I think I mentioned that also just before talking about politics. One of the main threats that we see today is in the deniability of something that wasn't modified, because that is always an argument now. Even if you are in a court case, somebody could have made that up. So we have seen cases of, for example, people under criminal investigation that said that video, it wasn't me, I didn't say those things, somebody put my face there. We have seen cases also of I think, child custody, where an audio was recorded, perhaps with a parent saying something against the children and then denying that they actually said that. So there are some of those cases, but I think they are still isolated, unfortunately. But unfortunately, that's something that will grow in the future as well.
So Frank asks, can deepfake videos be created that can interact with a human in real time, that is, carry on a conversation?
Yes, there are some instances of that. Real time is not very much the issue here. Well, perhaps it depends on what is the resolution of the quality that you have in mind. So maybe that's still an issue, but real time can happen. There are companies that are working on this kind of application, for example, for customer service or for translations, things like that. But I guess the question comes from the point of, is there real intelligence in that face talking to me? And then perhaps the answer is not yet. So what you would have is avatars that have been pre-programmed to say something, to respond to simple, usual questions from a customer service point of view. that is already a reality. Let's say that's the beginning of perhaps a new industrial service.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what they are able to respond, I think we will see their limitation very soon if you talk to them. So yeah.
Emily asks, have you seen or identified any connections between online incel groups and the creation or proliferation of fake pornographic images of women? Or is it just too diffuse to really identify where these requests are coming, where these operations are coming from?
That's a good question. We do not have evidence of a connection there. Perhaps the question comes from the fact that skills and technology maybe they are not in the hands of so many to be mastered, and therefore maybe they do both of these activities. I don't know if that's true. I think it's unlikely. We identify communities that have just very different motives, political or financial or whatnot. So I think it's just that technology is getting in the hands of many people, and unfortunately many bad actors.
Dave asked a great question, and you'll know the answer to it. I certainly don't. How about the bigger problem that will eventually develop, which is that as artificial intelligence matures relative to Turing's imitation game, and will eventually be able to imitate all aspects of a person, how will we ever know we're dealing with real people in all aspects of life?
Right. How much time do we have for answer this one?
Not too much at this point, but I guess a related question, and this came up. Nick Bostrom gave a talk here a couple of years ago, and he talked about estimates of when AI will be so perfected that it really could kind of take over the world or something. And I guess there were estimates like 35 years or 50 years. I don't know. What's your sense of it?
It's very difficult to say, but I think you can perhaps give yourself an answer if you do some exploration of things that are online and you can play with. So we haven't been talking about generated, let's say, fake machine generated text. That's not really something that we deal with, we work with, but there are some tools that people can try and play with. One is created by a company that is called OpenAI, and this tool is called GPT-3, and essentially is a very general purpose machine to generate text. Also, for example, asking question about the word. This machine has been trained on a lot of internet data and will give you in English, for example, and will give you answers that are somewhat coherent and surprisingly also clever most of the time. Is that intelligent? I don't know, probably not. It's just a statistical machine that just read a lot of data. But then at this point, what is intelligence? From my point of view, really the definition that we should tune in is how the level of surprise of some of the answers this machine will give us. At some point, I guess really this boils down to the Turing test. Can you say if there is a person on the other side giving you those answers, or it is all automated? And I think sometimes when you actually talk and write back to some of these models now, some of these machines, you may really wonder that sometimes, so that they have become to a sophistication that really makes you wonder what the machine is thinking, what it understands of the world. I think that's probably one of the closest, I would say, also from the point of view of researchers, examples of what intelligence / surprise is about these days. Deepfakes somewhat is a very parallel subject, because what we deal with is just a generation of audio or video that would look realistic to our senses, sound or vision, but they don't actually own at all any intelligence. They are just puppets. We tell them what to say, we tell them how to move. So the element of intelligence is somewhere else, if you wish.
Dave has followed up with a question. Giorgio, is that really you on the screen? Or is it an avatar?
I sometimes think that I miss an opportunity to actually come up with a fake face, but also I don't think that would be fair to the audience. So yeah, that is me. Also, from I was like looking at the recording of my talk, I realized how much I was winging on the chair. I don't think I would do that if there was an avatar. I would just make it very composed.
Yeah, I have the same problem too. Here's a question that you and I talked about before your talk started and we went public. I've noticed that in a couple of cases dealing with banks, they've taken a voice print of me to authenticate as part of a two-factor authentication. How much of a future do they have given the ability of cloning voices?
This is an important question, and it's actually very related to some of the work that we are doing at the moment with my team. The kind of industry that deals with that problem, commercially speaking, is the industry of biometrics. So it's a whole lot of technology that is built to be able to authenticate you by, as you said, voice, by your face, by your passport as well, fingerprints and iris and whatnot, right? Mm. Well, it turns out that actually what we are finding, and also other researchers are finding, is a lot of the commercially deployed technology for authenticating users, for onboarding new customers, opening your crypto account or whatnot, they are actually vulnerable to some attacks executed with deepfakes. So imagine if I was very committed to log in your bank account, what I would need is probably maybe having access to a stolen passport of yours, if that's really required. Perhaps if it's really just a voice matching, what I would need is take a recording of one of these conversations, train a model to do voice cloning, and then having it work in real time. And we are actually quite close to it in terms of technology. So probably just with some funding and very committed adversary, that can already happen. And then training it to talk over the microphone in real time with your voice. It may still sound maybe a bit robotic if you hear it. Maybe if your colleagues hear it. But maybe for somebody that is a machine and they just try to guess some of the pitches of your voice, that's how it was trained to recognize you, it will be enough to fool it and spoof it. And unfortunately, maybe also access to your account. I'm not aware to, well, actually, I was about to say, I'm not aware to real cases of that happen yet. But now that I remind, there was just a news that we weren't able to identify, but something very similar happened with tax authorities in China. And there was some English news just last week. So we don't know much of the details, but somebody was able to access confidential tax information using the face of somebody else over a webcam. Mm. So unfortunately, I think this is the beginning again of something that is growing.
Wow. Well, one more question, then we probably should end this part of the conversation. But how have deepfakes been most effectively deployed so far in your experience? This is from Linda.
I guess we're talking about harmful purposes, right?
Well, I gather that most of them are harmful, though if there have been some beneficial uses of it, I suppose that's worth thinking about too.
Well, maybe let's talk about the positive if you want to go in that direction towards a positive conclusion, right?
Right.
I think the creative words and many type of industry that deals with advertising, marketing, personalized content, translation, online education. In all of these places, we are seeing young businesses like ours that work on that side of the technology, and they are doing something extremely innovative. And I think they're going to open new market and new possibility. For example, to have just think about some kids that don't talk English, but they would like to have your university lecturer, assuming that they're a public translator in their language. All of this is going to open so many opportunity for people doing transaction and business or learning on the internet. And I think this is again just the beginning of an internet much more personalized and customized and let's say human looking to us in the future. So that on this we are seeing a lot of innovation.
Well, thank you so much for a great talk. We'll continue the members only part in a few minutes, but Giorgio Patrini, I want to thank you too for giving up time during your dinner hour, because it's dinner hour where you are. It's just post breakfast here in the Mountain Time Zone in the United States. So we're really—
My pleasure.
This is exciting material. We look forward to the progress of your firm, and thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody.